5 years ago, Mike Korzemba released a video calling Lonzo Ball Steph Curry with a 40-inch vertical, and today I've made Lonzo exactly that. With a 99 driving dunk, a maxed out lateral quickness, speed with ball, acceleration, everything he'll need to get to the rim, and high dunking tendencies, along with a bunch of Hall of Fame finishing badges and some great dunk packages, Lonzo should be set to absolutely dominate the league at a 99 overall. At the start of the season, the Bulls were playing really well, and Lonzo was leading the way for them, averaging over 36 a game. At All-Star break, they kept up the momentum, as Lonzo Ball was selected to be the All-Star captain after not even previously being an All-Star in his career. We finish out the season 67-15, and Lonzo is selected to the All-NBA second team, averaging about 34 points per game. In the first round, we have the Toronto Raptors. They're the 8th seed, we're the 1 seed, and we're able to get out of there in 5 games. Now we've got the 5 seed in Milwaukee Bucks in the second round. In this round, we get off to a 2-0 start, but they take 2 games of their own, and now we're going into a pivotal game 5 that we end up winning to take a 3-2 series lead as Lonzo drops 27. In Game 6, the Bucks win, setting up a winner-go-home Game 7. And in this Game 7, we end up winning by 18 points as our big 3 all play really well and Lonzo gets a triple-double. He's having a really good playoff so far. Now, getting into the conference finals, we've got the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs end up taking Game 1, and we're able to take Game 2. We also take Game 3, and then it's over from there. We end up advancing to the NBA Finals as Lonzo has a great conference finals series. Now we're up against the Dallas Mavericks, and in Game 1, we barely get out of there, winning by 2 points, led by Lonzo Ball with 45 and 10. Then in Game 2, we win by 14, Lonzo drops 46 and 11, and Game 3 is really close. Lonzo has the ball, he drives to the rim, and gets fouled. He's got Steph Curry's free throw stats though, so both of the free throws drop, and we're up 2 points. Luka Doncic is isoing on Lonzo, blows by him, gives the ball to Dorian Finney-Smith, and Finney-Smith is able to make an easy layup. Now it's a tie game. We need a bucket, and Lonzo fades away, and he swishes it to put us up by 3 points in the clutch. Now Luka Doncic has the ball and they need a bucket. He misses the mid-range, but Dwight Powell is wide open and is able to get an easy offensive rebound for a layup. Now the Mavs need to foul, so they go ahead and do that, and they're able to get a layup from Spencer Dinwiddie. It's a 1-point game, but Lonzo gets some more free throws to put us up 3, and the game's pretty much over from there. Luka had a tough shooting night, and Lonzo had a great shooting night, which allows us to take a commanding 3-0 series lead. But Luka isn't going down without a fight. The Mavs take Game 4, but that's it for him. We end up winning the series as Lonzo is named Finals MVP, averaging about 36 and 11. Going on to player progression, we see that DeMar DeRozan takes a 2 overall dip, but Patrick Williams is up 4. Now, looking at the All-Star teams this year, Lonzo Ball still putting up great numbers, but we're kind of struggling at 25 and 28 at the All-Star break. Also, if you do go on to enjoy the video, I'd really appreciate if you consider subscribing to the channel. Anyways, let's continue on. Lonzo isn't even in the MVP race as a result of the team's struggles. Even though he was named All-NBA second team, we still finished as the 6th seed in the East. Now keep in mind, Lonzo is a free agent this offseason. Looking at this series against the Cavs, I thought we'd lose, but we got out of there in a gentleman's sweep as Lonzo Ball averaged over 30 points per game in the first round. Now we've got the young Pistons who upset the Boston Celtics, and they're up 3-2 against us. We need to win this Game 6 or we're going home. And ultimately, after being an NBA champion last year, we're a second round exit this year, as Lonzo struggled in the closeout game. Ultimately, I guess we got some revenge as the Pistons did blow a 3-1 to Ja Morant and the Grizzlies in the NBA Finals, but we should have been back there, and this year was definitely a disappointment. Now, Lonzo is a free agent, like I said, so he could choose a new team. He's got offers from the Pacers and Clippers, but ultimately that Pacers offer went away. Guess they ran out of cap space, and Lonzo Ball is teaming up with Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers. Bradley Beal is also here as well. We've got a pretty nice big 3 going on. Kawhi and Lonzo were both selected to be All-Stars, as Lonzo continues to put up good numbers, but I noticed some major changes to our roster. Bradley Beal ended up getting traded, which allowed us to add Dame, and we also added Nikola Vucevic. Now our roster is actually looking significantly better, but we still finish off with a pretty bad record. Lonzo Ball was once again All-NBA, but heading into the playoffs, we were the 7th seed. We're going up against the reigning champion Grizzlies, and we're down 3-1. Ultimately, we end up losing in 5. Lonzo Ball had a solid playoffs. Damian Lillard, it was looking rough for him in the NBA playoffs. A really bad stat line, and Kawhi wasn't great either. We needed more from those guys as the Cavs win the championship this year. Going on to player progression, Kawhi and Dame are both pretty old, and they continue to drop in overall. That isn't good for us, but somehow we're a little better around the All-Star break this year, as Lonzo Ball is an All-Star starter. Jumping on to the end of the season, Lonzo is an All-NBA player alongside Steph Curry, a guy who is like him, but he just doesn't have that 40-inch vertical. Now, getting onto the play-in, we faced Steph, but ended up losing. Lonzo dropped 27, and Kawhi only dropped 10, but Steph ended up getting the best of us in this one. After this loss, Kawhi and Dame continued to regress, and this roster's just looking worse and worse. Lonzo is still playing well individually. He was once again the All-Star captain at age 29, but we just aren't seeing the team success we need. This year, we only won 26 games. We weren't even in the playoffs, as Kyrie on the Spurs ends up winning the NBA championship. But looking at player progression this year, we were able to make a new pickup. We added Anthony Simons, so we're just rotating Blazers point guards at this point. It didn't help at all though. We only won 30 games on the season. Lonzo Ball put up good stats again, but it wasn't leading to anything. We were able to pick up Saddiq Bey for the next year. We also got Clint Capella, and that was helping us out a lot. We were a good team around the All-Star break. Lonzo Ball was an All-Star captain, and it looked like we at least had some hope of getting back to the playoffs this year to try and compete for a championship. By the end of the season, we were almost a 50-win team. That was a big improvement for us, as Lonzo Ball was named to the All-NBA second team. He continues to do his thing and put up good numbers. We're up against Brooklyn in the first round, and they get off to an early lead that we are never really able to bounce back from. We get eliminated in 6 games, and we're sent home in the first round, as Desmond Bane wins Finals MVP for the Bucks. This year, our roster pretty much looks the same. We're going to try to run it back and hopefully have some more success. Lonzo was an all-star captain again, but really at this point, all we care about is the postseason. Lonzo did average 10 assists, which was really good, and this year we're facing off against the Houston Rockets in the playoffs. They're beating us 3-2 in the series, and we end up losing in 6 to them, but we add Jonathan Kuminga in the offseason in hopes of improving as a team, and this worked. We were 33-8. We were on a huge win streak. Ultimately, that continued for quite some time till we finally lost. Lonzo was an all-star captain, Kuminga was an all-star, and this year we won 61 games as Lonzo got an MVP. Cade Cunningham, surprisingly, was a 6th man of the year as well. He was backing up Tyrese Halliburton in Indiana. Kinda crazy. We were able to pick up Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Monk on cheap deals, I guess after the season started, so that probably is why we were so good this year. We end up sweeping the New York Knicks in the first round, and then the Thunder get off to a 3-0 lead against us. We take a game, and then we get gentlemen swept. Lonzo had a solid playoffs, his efficiency was a bit down, Anthony was solid, and Kuminga was amazing, but we still ended up losing. We also lost Jared Vanderbilt, who we added on a cheap deal last season, and that led to us being much worse than we were the year prior. We ended up finishing off the season with only 30 wins, as Luka wins MVP as a member of the Blazers. Lonzo was All-NBA third, with his numbers being a little bit down, but it really doesn't matter unless we're in the playoffs, as his former team, the Bulls, ends up getting a championship. My sources were telling me Lonzo was sick of struggling on this team, and he wanted to trade to Miami. So I made it happen. And now he is teaming up with Darius Garland and Chet Holmgren on the Heat. This was a recipe for at least some more success, as we were back in the NBA playoffs. Lonzo averaged low numbers, but that's because he had legitimate stars who he was playing next to. They were both putting up big numbers, and it was more of a team effort amongst this big three. In the first round, we were down 3-1 to the Brooklyn Nets, but we fought back, forcing a Game 7, and in Game 7 we won by 18 points behind Lonzo dropping 39. Now we've got the San Antonio Spurs in the second round. They're absolutely stacked, and I thought this is where we were going to go down. But ultimately, we got out to a 3-1 lead and never looked back. If Lonzo can win this conference finals against Minnesota, we'll finally see him back with the chance to compete for a ring. And the Heat get off to a hot 2-0 start, and they end up winning in 6 games. Now they're facing the Milwaukee Bucks, and this Bucks team looks pretty good. In game 1, we're able to just squeeze by 3 points as Lonzo drops 29. Then in game 2, it's another close one, but we win again. Lonzo has 17 and 15, and we now have a 2-0 series lead, but the Bucks fight back. They take a game. We take a game of our own, and then we're out of there in 5 as Chet Holmgren is named the finals MVP, and Lonzo gets his second championship. After the championship, though, Garland decided he wanted to leave, and we were still good without him. We ended up as the 10th seed. The league went to a 1 through 16 seed format, and we lost to that Spurs team. They looked really good last year, though. And Lonzo's former team, Chicago, ends up getting another ring. Now Lonzo and Chet are starting to regress, but Lonzo's still an all-star captain. Maybe there's still some hope for this team as Lonzo is 37 years old. We end up picking up Jaylen Brown on a cheap deal in the season to help us out, and he's able to help us advance past the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round. We won that series in 6 games. Now we've got the 2-seeded Sixers. We're going to need an upset here. It's tied at 2 apiece. We take game 5, and now we're headed to a game 7 where we end up losing. Unfortunately, Lonzo Ball just couldn't get it done in this one, and his years are dwindling down. Him and Chet are continuing to regress as Lonzo is 37 and Chet is 33. But Lonzo keeps going. He's an all-star captain, and the Heat are able to squeeze their way into the playoffs, and we're facing up against the Hawks in the first round. We take the first 2 games of the series, and we end up getting out of there in 5. Now we've got Ja Morant and the Jazz in round 2. We get off to a 2-0 start to the series, but then the Jazz take a game, and ultimately we end up going to game 7. In game 7, the Jazz win by 7 points as Lonzo Ball drops 25. It just wasn't enough. Lonzo had a solid playoff run, but ultimately we got some revenge as the Jazz blew a 3-0 lead to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. After this, Lonzo decides to call it quits and ignore the 27 years pro. That's because I added Steph's attributes to him. It also added Steph's years pro, which made him have 27 years pro. But Lonzo had a very impressive resume, and he put up some great stats throughout his career. That's it for the video. Have a great day. Be sure to like and subscribe.